Hello and welcome to the Certified Ethical Hacker Study Guide. In this video we will discuss Chapter 6.2 NetBIOS. Please like, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Now let's dance our way into the first topic, after this short break. NetBIOS Basics. Before learning how to enumerate Microsoft systems, you need to review the basics of how Network Basic Input-Output System, or NetBIOS, works. NetBIOS is a Windows programming interface that allows computers to communicate across a local area network, or LAN. Most Windows OSs use NetBIOS to share files and printers. NetBIOS listens on UDP ports 137, NetBIOS Name Service, and 138, NetBIOS Datagram Service, and TCP port 139, NetBIOS Session Service. File and printer sharing in Windows also requires an upper-level service called Server Message Block, SMB, which runs on top of NetBIOS. In Windows 2000 and later, SMB listens on TCP port 445 and doesn't need to use NetBIOS over TCP/IP unless support for older Windows versions is required. Enumeration is a process of discovery. Using one enumeration tool may lead to a discovery that directs you to use another enumeration tool. For example, if you had used Nmap and learned that a device had UPD ports 137 and 138, and TCP port 139, all the NetBIOS ports, open, you might then use a NetBIOS enumeration tool such as NBTScan to see what more you could discover about that device. The computer names you assign to Windows systems are called NetBIOS names and have a limit of 16 characters. The last character is reserved for a hexadecimal number, 002FF, that identifies the service running on the computer. Therefore, you can use only 15 characters for a computer name, and NetBIOS adds the last character automatically to identify the service that has registered with the OS. For example, if a computer is running the server service, the OS stores this information in a NetBIOS table. Now let's drop into the next topic, right after this short break. A NetBIOS name must be unique on a network. In this section we will list the NetBIOS suffixes that correspond to the services or resource types running on a computer. You don't need to memorize all these suffixes, but note that some identify the computer or server being enumerated as a standalone computer or domain controller. Hackers often exert more effort to attack computers identified as domain controllers because these systems store more information, including logon names for user accounts and network resources. You can perform an internet search to find a more comprehensive list of NetBIOS suffixes. So, let's talk about some important NetBIOS names and suffixes. The computer name with suffix 00 means the workstation service has registered the computer name, which is also called the NetBIOS name. And well, the suffix 20 is registered by the server service. A computer really needs to have this service running if you want to share printers or files. Suffix 22, registered by the Microsoft Exchange Interchange Service. Suffix 23, registered by the Microsoft Exchange Store Service. A store is where mailboxes and public folders are stored. Suffix 24, registered by the Microsoft Exchange Directory Service. Suffix 87, signifies that Microsoft Exchange Message Transfer Agent, MTA, is running on this computer. The next suffix are preceded by the domain name. Suffix 00 indicates that domain name system, DNS, is running. 1C identifies the computer as a domain controller. 1C indicates that IIS is running. Suffix 00 also indicates that iOS is running. There you have it. Now let's slide into the next topic, right after this short break. Now, moving on to NetBIOS null sessions. Historically, one of the biggest vulnerabilities of NetBIOS systems is something called a null session. This is basically an unauthenticated connection to a Windows computer that uses no logon and password values at all. Many enumeration tools covered in this module establish a null session to gather information such as logon accounts, group membership, and file shares from an attacked computer. This vulnerability has been around for more than a decade and is still present in Windows XP. Null sessions have been disabled by default in Windows Server 2003, although administrators can enable them if they are needed for some reason. In Windows Vista and Server 2008, null sessions aren't available and can't be enabled, even by administrators. You might ask, why are we talking about these ancient operating systems? Who uses Windows XP anymore? You would be surprised. If you as a penetration tester find an older operating system, You have just discovered a major security vulnerability, as these operating systems are no longer supported and do not receive security updates. Your courses of action include upgrading the operating system, isolating the vulnerable ancient OS so it is not connected to any networks, or decommissioning the system. Now let's scream into the next topic, right after this short break. Let's look at NetBIOS enumeration tools. The NBTS-STAT command is a pretty powerful enumeration tool that's included with Windows. If you want to display the NetBIOS table, you just issue the nbtstat-a and then the IP address command. If you want to run nbtstat locally, the command is nbtstat-s. Figure 6.2 shows the entry LON-DC1. The 20 represents the server service running on the LON-DC1 computer. The NetBIOS table also shows that a datum is a domain controller, as indicated by the 1C suffix. Another built-in Windows tool is the NetView command, which gives you a quick way to see whether there are any shared resources on a computer or server. To display the syntax for this command, type NetView. Using the NetView command, an attacker can view remote shares, as shown in Figure 6.3. You can also use the IP address of computers you discovered with port scanning tools. For example, Figure 6.4 shows the command used on a remote Windows 10 computer. A share name called WoW is displayed. The next command an attacker could use against this computer is rob ThinkPad 32GBS WoW to explore the share drive and look for interesting files. Although you can download or buy enumeration tools, you should learn how to take advantage of the tools available in Windows. A simple command line utility can give you the name of a logged-on user, and a guess of that user's password can give you access to the system quickly. Many password cracking programs can determine a password in a matter of seconds. A quick internet search will reveal many free password cracking programs you can try. However, security testers can often guess passwords without needing a special program, because some users are careless when creating passwords. For example, many users, despite guidelines in company security policies, use simple passwords such as password or P at $W0RD. Some systems also have default login credentials that users often neglect to change, such as a username of admin with a password that is also admin. You can find lists of default credentials for various devices on the internet. Many password cracking programs mentioned earlier can use brute force and attempt thousands of logons using dictionaries containing thousands of passwords. These dictionaries include well-known poor passwords, like password 1234, and well-known default credentials. Now let's blaze into the next topic, right after this short break. For this activity, you'll work with a partner to examine the Windows tools for viewing NetBIOS services and shares. It's a hands-on way to get familiar with these built-in features. After using the nbtstat command to discover a network computer or server that's sharing a resource, you use the NetView and NetUse commands to enumerate these shared resources and possibly access them from your computer. Start your computer and log on to Windows if necessary. Right-click, Start and then click File Explorer. Click this PC in the left pane, double-click Local Disk, C, or other hard disk name. Click the Home tab on the ribbon, if necessary, and then click New Folder. Type your first name for the folder name and press Enter. Your first name is a placeholder used in the following commands. Use your real first name instead. If you create a folder called Your First Name, that's okay. Just remember the name of the folder. Right-click the folder you created, click Give Access to, and then click Specific People. In the Network Access dialog box, type Everyone, click Add, and then click Share. Click Done to close the Network Access dialog box. Open a command prompt window and then type ipconfig and press Enter. Write down your IP address and give it to your partner. In the following steps, the IP address you found in step 4 is represented by the variable partner's IP address. Instead of typing partner's IP address, type the IP address you shared with your partner when you see this variable in a command. At the command prompt, type NetView partner's IP address and press Enter. What does the command produce as output? Type NetUse and press Enter. You use the NetUse command to connect to a computer containing shared folders or files. Type NetUser partner's IP address. Your first name, replacing partner's IP address with the actual IP address you shared with your partner, and your first name with the name of the folder you created, and press Enter. What are the results of this command? Type nbtstat, a partner's IP address and press Enter. What are the results of this command? Close all open windows and decide which partner will boot with Kali Linux for the next activity. If you find this video useful, please hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. To see more videos like this, please click in the rectangle in the middle of your screen. To see other videos from this channel, please click the circle on the bottom right. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.